This is the Sober Boozers Club podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs. I'm an alcoholic and I've been sober since January 2022. In that time, I have been navigating the world of alcohol-free beers, sampling some of the best that the world has to offer. In this podcast, we're going to talk to people from within these circles and find out a little bit about their journey. So you sit back, relax, and enjoy. Today I'm talking to my very good friend, Mr. Roger Tattersall. Now, Roger is one of the former owners of Mash Gang prior to their recent acquisition. He was the chief finance officer, and he knows an awful lot about alcohol-free beer. We talk about it on a pretty regular basis, so it made sense to have a good old chat with him. I really hope you enjoy this episode. I've missed that voice. I've missed that voice so much. How are you, mate?
I'm really, really well, thanks, Ben. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm waiting for a delivery of a hose pipe to connect to a power washer at the moment because my drain is blocked out the front of my house. Which is just
who knows for doing it yourself, you know? I'm the son of a...
Well, there's a story here. I did
be barren and, you know, I'd be getting someone out to do that, to be honest.
Well, I did first time round, right? Like this drain, it makes no sense. There's like a weird little right angle that goes underneath the driveway, not underneath the house. It goes underneath the driveway, and it just shouldn't exist. Like it's been done really poorly. So I did hire someone to come out and do it first time round, and all they did was they just fucking put a power washer down the grate and just sprayed it for 15 minutes. And I was like, well, I'm just going to bloody pay for a pound.
That's basically drain care, Ben, to be honest. That's...
Yeah. It's like just maintenance, isn't it?
Drainage industry already.
Yeah, so what are your top tips for clean and healthy drains?
Keep your fats, oils and greases away from the sink and your golden, and, you know, keep few wipes as possible from going down the toilet, and then you'll be fine, Ben. There you go.
Well, thanks. That's all I needed, mate. So have a good afternoon. I'll catch you soon, yeah? So, for people that might not know, who are you and what on earth do you do?
That's a good question. I'm Roger, and until very recently, I was part of a non-alcoholic setup called Mash Gang. I am an accountant by trade, and I largely played the role of CFO for Mash Gang, although, let's face it, we all did everything there. So did everything from designing cans, labels, writing copy, to actually, you know, doing the stuff that a CFO should do, budgeting, all that sort of thing. And I guess I sort of played more of the boring sort of behind the scenes, faceless role, which suits me just fine.
Person that was saying, no, we can't do that, it's too expensive, basically.
Yeah, that was me.
How did that come about then? So you said you're an accountant by trade.
Yeah.
How do you end up working for one of the most exciting independent alcohol-free brewers in the world?
The short story is socks, but I'll take the story. So yeah, I mean, I started my career, you know, like you do in one of the big four accounting businesses. I went to PwC and did all my sort of big exams there. Was flogged for a few years, you know, worked hard, and whilst I was there, I tried to do sort of business development. You know, they let you to get out and meet businesses and stuff like that. But at the same time, that's when I was really getting into drinking craft beer.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, hang on a second. There's something really cool I can do here. I can basically pretend that I'm going to go out and sell to these brewery business, whereas really all I'm doing is just going and having a bit of a jolly and meeting all these breweries. So that kind of started my love affair with beer and craft beer, and got to meet people like Christian at North Brewing, when he had set up Rick Burhouse at Magic Rock, and, you know, people like that in the area, and just went out and spent time with them. So that sort of got me a bit of a taste for the industry. And it was at that point where I sort of knew, look, like I would love to do something here one day. And it was this sort of entrepreneurial flair to me, but to be honest, I was probably too scared to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bit of time passed, and, you know, didn't want to be part of the sort of big corporation anymore. So kind of moved around a couple of times and cut my teeth in various sort of senior financial positions in businesses. And there was still that sort of itch to be scratched from the entrepreneurial side of things. So anyway, yeah, fast forward to the lockdown, and I had my firstborn, and I found myself seeking out lower alcohol options. And I'll never forget, I was perusing the Northern Monk website, as you do, and there was this cool 0.5% gummy worm sour thing.
Yep.
Gary's Fizzy Army, and I was like, well, what's this? Let's have a bit of this then. Bearing in mind, during lockdown, I was drinking quite a lot of beers as well. So, I was ready for a bit of a change. I didn't, I was feeling like I'd had enough of beer for that time. And, when you have, as many of you listeners know, when you have kids, all of a sudden the hangovers hit harder, the sleep's more important. So
yeah, you kind of need to be a little bit more on it, don't you, when you've got a young person.
I look after you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, okay, well, let's have this, and got it. And I was like, this is fucking amazing. Who's this collaborator with it? And I was like, Mash Gang. Okay, cool. Let's kind of look up who they are on Instagram. And this Mash Gang was probably around a year old maximum at this time, maybe less, maybe like 6 months old or something. So yeah, I kind of found them. Was like, right, I'm going to order some stuff from them as well. And then from there, just sort of started interacting with. I never knew which member of the gang I was talking to. I assume most of the time it was probably George. And sort of just chatting to them. Then they did that first sort of crowdfund thing they did. And I was like, well, I've not got loads of cash, but here you go, here's a little bit. And by the way, if I can ever help you with anything, do let me know. And they were like, all right, cool. Didn't really think anything of it. And then they released those bitchin' socks that they released, the green and
yeah.
And I was like, fucking having some of these. And kind of got chatting to them about socks. And then that was when they were sort of like, oh, well, like you said you could help, like, what do you do? And I was like, here we go. Like, this is where it ends here, because they're going to realize I'm some boring finance guy. And I was like, oh, I'm actually in finance. And no joke, like we still have like copies of the messages now. George replied and was like, look, I'm a pretty blunt guy. And, anyone who's into the podcast will know that about George.
Yeah.
And he was like, we really want someone to come and sort of look at the numbers and the finance side for us, like, on a part-time basis, whatever, could that person be you?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was in a job where I wasn't really working loads of hours, and I felt like I had a bit of spare time. My wife was doing a yoga course on an evening. So I was like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And that's it. I met James after that, and he was like, let's do this. And it sort of just snowballed from there. So at first it was only supposed to be a couple of hours a week, probably. And that snowballed into pretty much working 30, 40 hours a week, as well as my other job for them towards the end. And yeah, like the rest is history. And from there on, just got involved in everything. And, the best sock conversation I've ever had in my life, I'd say. I had socks and they were great. My wife still wears them now.
It's funny how like a lot of the stories around Mash Gang, it revolves around it. So how did this happen? It's like, well, we were talking about pizza, or we were talking about socks, and it just kind of, everything just seems to have fallen into place in the most ridiculous way, which could only happen for Mash Gang.
Yeah, absolutely. And it turns into, obviously there was already 4 or 5 guys there to begin with, and they were obviously close already, but very, very quickly, we were pouring together at Hop City Festival at Northern Monk, and from then on you just become this family, and all the rest of the guys just have this ability to make you feel like you're part of the family, which feels a bit weird to say, but it really is a real family vibe going on there, and I think that's what made it work. You fall out like your family as well, but good times like your family, and just a really special experience, and come out of it with family and friends for life 2 years later. And obviously we're all still in touch now, but absolutely amazing, best 2 years of my life spent there. And sometimes you think, oh, I wish it could have been a bit longer, but just less than 2 weeks ago I had my second born.
Yes, congratulations.
Felt like the time was right to probably take a little pause on that, so I can focus on that. Obviously after the sale happened. Yes.
Yeah, it's mad when you think about that time frame in terms of where they are now headed. Mashgang. Obviously, we don't know what the future holds, but the deal that went through is it's an industry changing deal. I think, and yeah, take it from where it was 2 years ago to where it is now. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if I think back to I remember how much revenue we did in the first month, how much sales we did, and I'm just tapping on my calculator now to see how many more times sales we did in the final month, and it's like 800% or something like that across 2 years, which just shows the growth. And we'd had higher months than that as well. I mean, it was serious growth, and I like to claim that I was the catalyst for that because it all started going up when I joined, but I don't think that was the case. I think it was a case of right place, right time. But yeah, I mean, obviously my finance skills were quite useful. It was a case of, I suppose, some of the less sexy part of business, figuring out how much things actually cost us, figuring out where we were doing stuff where it was actually losing us money.
So were you technically, if we're talking about how much things cost, were you technically the person that got rid of the cherry stout and then subsequently bought it back?
Yeah, well, actually, no. But yes, because I suppose my influence of we can't keep spending this much money on making stuff because we have to make this thing called cash and profit. Then rubbed off enough on people that they were like, yeah, we can't do the cherry stout again. However, it absolutely was me mainly who was really pushing to bring that cherry stout back.
Well, you've got nothing to lose now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also it's based on cherry prices as well, and they do fluctuate. But yeah, I think also if you look at when we first made that compared to where the business was now, the cost structure was a lot better as well. So when you got the volumes and stuff, it becomes more cost efficient to sort of do those things. But we were making some stuff, where we weren't making any money, we were losing money on it. But equally, there's some stuff we did, and you're willing to lose some money if it's something which really stands out. And like for example, I think we were always pretty open about the fact that those subscription boxes actually lost money for the business for the first year. And then even when we put that first price increase up and we were worried about the backlash was actually not a backlash at all. It was very supportive. Everyone was like, I can't believe we were getting it this cheap before. We totally get it. And even then we were only really turning it out to make a small amount of profit because really it was about getting beers out there to people and doing stuff that we love doing. But equally, the mantra always was, some businesses don't necessarily run this way, but we wanted to be profitable as soon as we could. We wanted to make sure that we could, no one took crazy money out of the business, but we wanted to make sure that people who were working in the business full time were able to pay themselves. And equally, we were able to pay our suppliers, which, early days in the business is harder, and was a real struggle when we first got there. But as we sort of moved through, we got a lot better at doing it. We weren't perfect at it. We were sometimes late, but we knew what business we wanted to be, from a financial point of view, and stuff like that. And that's what we worked towards, and everyone was really united in that. But in doing that, we kind of, we didn't sort of strip everything back and cheap out and stuff. It was still about having the top quality, ingredients and everything like that we could put into stuff and go in the extra mile. But we'd also, swashbuckle around areas and, find ways of getting a certain quality for less. And, similarly having, there wasn't that many of us for how much, money we were sort of turning over really, and you had people like me doing stuff that you probably don't really want your accountant to do, but they let me and I learned pretty fast.
I think that is like one of the things that people loved about the business. You say like working there, it was a family, but that's very much what the vibe is from the outside as well. Like I know from personal experience, like immediately as soon as I can remember the day that Mashgang followed me on social media, And from then it was like, okay, I'm just chatting to my mates. And it felt like that. And it's not just me that gets that, it's the whole...
Well, you've met them. I mean, how different a person on the surface am I to pretty much any of those guys, really. And that's the funny thing about it. Everyone's a bit different. Everyone's a bit odd. I don't think anyone will mind me saying that. And I like to think of myself as a bit odd as well. And I think that's why it works. There's a lot of oddity going on, and it sort of just mixes together into something beautiful and powerful.
Yeah, I think you speak to people that, like, people feel like they're understood. It's like, oh, look, when I stopped drinking alcohol, I didn't want, I've spoke to Alex about this. I didn't want to drink these clinical, like, oh, you're a naughty boy, so here's a nice clean drink. And then you find Mash Gang and it's like fucking snakes and skulls. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, cool.
Exactly. I want this to be the cool, middle-aged accountant dad drinking from the pink snake can, which I had something to do with designing as well, which also made it cool. But I wanted to be the cool person drinking from this cool can. That's what I wanted to be. And I do. We always, I really do believe that in any product, but especially in craft beer, 50% of the battle is what does the can look like. And just want that in there to be seen with that in their hands, or someone want to pick that off. And 50% of whether you're happy with a beer, in my opinion, is actually what it looks like before you even consume any of it. And we always sort of played around with, that being a key point for us. So, and it's very rare that we missed on the branding. Get the branding right. And the liquid also was great, but you've half your battle done. You can make the best tasting liquid in the world, but if you don't make it particularly compelling from the outside,
if no one's drinking it, no one's going to tell you how good it is, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
It's impossible. I think, do you feel like the business started at the perfect time? Obviously, you discovered them during COVID because you say you were cutting down on drinks. Obviously, that was also because you'd had a child. But I think a lot of people kind of developed this relationship with alcohol during COVID, where afterwards it was kind of right, we need to cut back a little bit.
I think, I think if you could go back, I would maybe want to have started the business. I wasn't there to start, but you'd probably have liked to start the business maybe a year and a half earlier, just so you could be in a good place. And if you look at businesses that are slightly older, so like Lucky Saying, Big Drop who's a bit older, feel like Days, like they almost got that jump on the market from being much from sort of first entrance into the UK market, but equally they sort of paved the way for that next iteration, and I suppose that then allowed the opportunity to take full advantage. And I do think that sort of lockdown period really did help to change people's views on alcohol. I don't consider myself sober or teetotal. However, I haven't drunk alcohol for 2 years because...
So that was another question, was are you still on with that?
I am still on with it, but, it's one of those things where it's not like I have this intention of,
no,
I'm not going to drink alcohol. It's just when I get it, I think when you break that link in your brain that really is there from a young age in British culture, is you go to a restaurant or a pub and the first thing that you think is, all right, what am I drinking? What bit going to have off this menu? And even when I go to the pub with my friends now, to a restaurant, they'll all be like scrambling and saying, well, what beers are we going to have when we get in there? Whereas for me now, that's actually not the first thing that crosses my mind. And I think once you break that link and you realize that there are good options for non-alcoholic beer out there, I'm a lot happier now driving my car, being able to leave whenever I want, wait for an Uber, and drinking various different non-alcoholic beers when I'm out, as long as I know that I'm somewhere where there's something good. And I mean, the great thing now is Mash Gang is increasingly in more places as well. Yes, along with the other beers that I like to drink, non-alcoholic beers that I drink when I'm out as well. But the availability is so much better. So it really wasn't that much of a change. Also, I clearly wasn't really paying anything for the Mash Gang beers because there was plenty that needed sampling for quality control. So, naturally, I kind of slipped into that only drinking non-alcoholic beer. And honestly, I feel a lot better for it. So I'm not gonna, I don't consider myself teetotal, but equally, I will never go back to drinking more than at most a couple of alcoholic drinks on an evening. If I ever do that, to be honest, and I would say, making that change is top 3 life-changing things that I've done in my life to make, I would say. I really do believe that.
That's mad. It's interesting. I think I spoke to a few people that are not alcoholics, but are living sober at the moment. And they all say the same thing. It's like, oh, you notice a difference. And it's crazy when you start living like this, how much of a change it really makes.
Absolutely.
It's like, shit, why didn't I do it sooner?
I think the thing for me is having been, and like you as well, but obviously it's a bit different for you, I suppose, as an alcoholic.
Because I was a wreck.
I'm not an alcoholic. I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I think I had a relatively healthy relationship with alcohol. But I think the version of myself when I'd have had a few beers certainly wasn't as good as the sober version of myself.
I think anyone is really, like it is intoxicating. It does alter how we are. And, that can be wonderful and it can be terrible.
Absolutely. And I think you realise the times when you thought it was wonderful weren't quite as wonderful as you thought it was as well, right?
Yeah, when you try to explain a drunk story to someone that wasn't there, you're like, oh, and then like this guy got on the table and this thing happened and then a song came on and
yeah.
So, right, yeah, that sounds tragic.
Yeah, I know.
It is, isn't it?
That's the realization. So, I mean, look, I think people who want to drink and can drink safely can, sure.
Yeah, man.
And for me, that's the thing, being such an enthusiast for craft beer.
Yeah.
If there was something really, really special put in front of me at the bar now, and I was like, fucking hell, I've always wanted to try that beer and I've never had it. I probably would try it. I'd probably have some of it. I probably wouldn't drink all of it though, but I would probably, and I think that's a happy medium place for me to be if I want to do that.
You're literally,
that hasn't happened yet.
Preaching to the choir here. Like, I think all alcoholics, there is a mecca that is moderation.
Yeah.
Right. And we all want to reach it. None of us ever will. Like, it's too late for us. This is how I know I'm an alcoholic, right? Is I'll be laying in bed at night and I'll go, if I had a pint now, like a real pint, I reckon I'd be fine. Like, I really don't think that I'd ever drink again. But I don't know. So I'm never going to.
And you don't have to risk it, right?
Well, for me, it ruined my life. Like, I have a disease, some people don't have that disease and they can moderate. Those are the people that I think, in terms of natural selection, they're the people that should survive the apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's bad for my brand, isn't it? It's like everyone that follows me, I think we shouldn't make it. But no, that like mindful drinking and drinking in moderation, I think is the future of the industry, because I think it has to be. Like, people that are in recovery deserve to have their recovery and to be able to have all of the good options that exist. But I think for the industry to grow, we've got to be targeting these people who just want to cut down and don't have a problem with alcoholism.
Yeah,
that's an eloquent way.
Certainly for that sort of millennial generation coming through. I mean, it's hard to verify what you see in data sometimes, but I did see something earlier that showed like the amount spent on alcohol by sort of generation, and the Gen Z amount, and obviously some of those people aren't old enough to drink yet, but was significantly lower than those generations before it. So clearly it is reducing. I don't see a world in the future where no one will drink. I don't. But I do see this world of moderation, and I think if I had a bar or a pub, whatever, I would be really focusing on having that wide selection of alcohol-free beers, because more and more people are going to be after not just alcohol-free beer, though, alcohol-free everything, spirits. Hopefully, I believe that wine will have big things in 2025 and will come on.
I really hope so. It's been very poor.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some good ones.
Keep them coming along, like all these options. But yeah, the wine thing needs to improve, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah. I've only ever, I don't really look for it because it's historically not been very good. I've only ever had one really good red wine, and it was Naturio. You can get it in Sainsbury's and Waitrose. Of course you can.
Yeah.
But that was, I was in some like 5-star hotel in Wales, and I've told this story before, but the chap came over and he had a big old handlebar mustache, and they had like a 5-star wine, whatever, award. I was like, if I'm ever going to have a good one, it's here. So I ordered it, and it was like, oh, yeah, that's nice. But still, like, I get a bottle of it, and it sits in the cupboard for about 6 months. So,
and I think, red wine, of all the alcohols that impacted me most adversely, I'd say red wine was something I'd probably drink anyway, because red wine drunk was a whole other level.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never sick on alcohol, ever. Which shocks a lot of people, but I never got to the point of throw up, except for once when I was very close, and that was red wine.
I was a big sicker with when I drank it. Well, that was
big old sicker.
Trick. Yeah, I just just casually just wander off to the toilets, have a little sick, and then carry on.
Tactical chunder.
Yeah, tactical king of the tactical chunders. Really, I mean, just didn't really make any. Didn't really think any different. Which probably worked better in some ways. At least I was getting it out of my system. But
I prefer
sign if you're doing that.
For me, I preferred cocaine. I found that really sobers you up beautifully.
I didn't really get into that stuff, to be fair, but I can see why that might have been the trigger.
It was like, could go and throw up, could do some coke. I think I know which one I'd rather.
Maybe that's why I did so much sick, just not enough cocaine.
Yeah, man. If you ever do go back to drinking, man, welcome to the Sober Boozers podcast. I think that all alcoholics should be called off, and you should all go and get some cocaine. I basically just cancelled myself in.
Cancelled yourself, yeah.
Recording one. I don't know if this will be episode 1, but Jesus. Anyway, back to beer.
Well, just before I go back to beer,
go on.
So, do you find that you drink other stuff that is non-alcoholic that isn't beer? Like, do you have spirit? Do you find yourself drinking spirits, or are you mostly just a beer guy?
Literally beer. I'm beer. To be honest, all that I drink in life now is black coffee and beer, which is basically an alcoholic's dream, right? Like, that's just what I live on, is coffee and beer. Occasionally I'll have a little glass of water if I have a headache, and that's it. I've recently got into a particular brand of cider, and that is Chance Clean Cider. I think that is incredible. Like,
I'm yet to try it, but I will be trying.
It's so good. I was so impressed. It was similar for me to We Can Be Friends, right? Like, the first time We Can Be Friends messaged me, it was like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, I just appeared from nowhere with like 40 followers on Instagram. I didn't know Sam from brewing before. I didn't even know that it was a chap called Sam behind it. I just knew We Can Be Friends. Nothing really behind it. Can we send you a sample? And I was like, yeah, you can. And in my head, I was like, this is going to be is this going to be really shit? And like, even I messaged Jord. I was like, have you heard of these guys? Like, do you know what this is? Because I was really not paranoid about drinking stuff, but like, with alcohol free, you can't get it wrong, right? Like, that you can drink something that could make you incredibly poorly if it hasn't been done properly. So yeah, it's something that's crossed my mind as someone that will drink anything and everything. So when they sent me stuff, it was like, I opened it and was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to be. And it was fucking incredible. Like, one of my top 5 beers of all time, We Can Be Friends' first one.
Shout out to Sam and We Can Be Friends. I mean, they I'm really glad to see them, taking on the collabs now, and everything they're pushing out is really great. And Sam, I know Sam from when we collabed at Mash Gang, really, really great guy as well. But yeah, those beers are excellent, and I find myself sneaking back time and time again to order more. I just wait until he's built up enough collabs from all the various
to get a few of these,
hit his site, and then sort of fill myself with maybe a 4, maybe a 12, and keep. I mean, I probably have. I mean, you probably have just as many, but I probably have 80 beers in my garage that need drinking at the moment.
Yeah,
say maybe 90% of them are Mash Gang that I just acquired over time, and taking stuff back for sampling quicker than you can drink it, especially because obviously we moved the brewing operations to Leeds, and I'm based in Leeds, and the brewery is 5-minute drive from my office, so I just go and get the underfills all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Yeah, I'm the same with like I've got 2 fridges, right? I've got a 2 film fridge, and I've got a to drink, like just enjoy fridge. The 2 drink and enjoy fridge is just full of like We Could Be Friends and Mash Gang primarily. And the amount of times I have to like force myself not to just go and get one of those. And it's like, no, Ben, you've got like 35 beers to film. Like you need to drink one of those ones instead of the ones that you know you like.
Life of a content creator.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, like, it's really not. I shouldn't really be complaining because it's literally just me stood talking to my phone, being like, "Oh, here's a beer. Taste it."
And you do it very well, Ben.
Thank you. Well, it's like I don't actually know anything about beer, really. Like that's the thing that I find just funny about this whole thing.
But that's probably what works, isn't it? Because I think most people who drink beer don't know that much about beer.
Yeah, that's it.
It works.
That's it. Like I've always seen not my job, but the reason for my existence online is just to say, this beer exists. It's a hazy IPA. I think it tastes a bit like this. I don't know, but that's my opinion. Do you want to buy it? Yeah, like it's up to you. It's just to say, like, look at all of these breweries that exist. You know, you can have a stout, you can have a sour, you can have a Chance Clean cider, which is delicious. You can have like all of these things you can have and still be sober or still be cutting down on your alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, that's my whole vibe. Like I started the profile because I didn't feel like there was a space for me within the world, really.
And I assume the more popular you get, Ben, the less beer you're buying as well. And the problem of having lots of beers to try rolls into something even bigger.
Yeah, and like it's
what a nice problem to have.
Yeah, it is a very nice problem to have, but it's also like there's a few that have been in my fridge for so long that I look at the best before, and it's like, if I was 6 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a layer. So I keep them in my garage because they don't all fit in the fridge that I've got in the garage. But yeah, I've kind of got like a layer at the bottom. Nothing's popping, which is good, but I know when I get to them, like there's some stuff like, some stuff I'll get to, and it's kind of nice to see how beers have lasted over like 18 months. So, and that's quite interesting because we use various different sort of preserving methods over time that you can see which ones work better than others. So like the Vault City beers that we did, we were using a different thing in those to ones that we were making at Fierce, for example, and the preservative was actually slightly better in those, so they would be good for like 24 months. Whereas after a year, the hop flavor starts to go. Maybe you get you don't get a great deal of re-fermentation, but you maybe get a little bit more froth in the can and stuff like that after the best before date. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how they react. And then some beers that I've had in time that I've sort of left for a while, I've opened and have just been explosive.
That is something that I've really loved about Mash Gang historically, is, when things do go wrong or when things have gone wrong, because of course things go wrong, you know about it, usually from Jord as well. And it's like, yeah, all of this beer exploded. We don't know why, but this has been pushed back. And it's like, and people are like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
classic
Jord.
Jord.
At the bottom of any email, it says we make good. And that was the thing. And, Chris, shout out to Chris running the sort of the customer service side of things. That was a huge point of focus for the business. It was doing right by customers. If something wasn't right, putting it right. And being open about things will go wrong sometimes. And yeah, the main faces that you'd see on that, George, and then Alex and Chris, you'd probably hear from a customer service point of view. Just being honest about stuff and putting things right if that was the case. And I think that's all I want to see from any brand, really. For example, I bought some Beardor recently, a random Instagram purchase, a while to get here, and it turned up and it's in this shitey, plasticky little bottle. And I'm just going to actually go back to him and be like, guys, this is not what I paid for. It looks nothing like the picture you sent me.
Yeah.
And see how they react. But part of me feels like they may just ignore me.
Yeah, most likely, which is like, I think it was just a perfect formula for Mash Gang. I think everything about it, it just hit every mark that you wanted it to hit. Like, the liquid was amazing, the people there were amazing, the branding was amazing, and it ticked every box.
Yeah. And it still is, and that's the thing, you know, and I think that's the good thing is what I'm really looking forward to is the quality is better than ever now. And there's a lot more process going into that. And what I look forward to is, you know, being able to get it more widely, even though I now have to pay for it.
Yeah, that's a good point actually, because I've been talking about them in a past sense almost, like, and now they've gone. But like, really, we're talking about Mash Gang like 1.0. When we talk historically, we're talking about how did Mash Gang become a brand that is now ready to become a real key player in world beverages.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you probably have more insight, but what would you like the future to look like for them?
I said, sort of when we did the deal, what I really, really want, you know, it's the legacy that's important. I want to be walking into a supermarket in the UK, let's say, or not even a supermarket, you know, any bar in the UK, or, you know, any bar in the US, any grocery store in the US. And I want to look on that shelf and see Chug or whatever there. And I want to be able to turn to my kids and say, that was me. Like, I was part of that. And I think that's what I want to see. And, you know, I want good beer available to everyone. And there is increasingly good beer available to more people now. And, you know, we see in the industry more people, you know, some of the early adopters into the industry sort of making moves as well, which is great to see. We're hopefully going to start seeing a bit more alcohol-free on draft, because there's nothing better than a nice pint when you're in the pub. The great thing about Leeds at the moment is Kirk still have Virtuous alcohol-free in a lot of the pubs, so you can have a nice pint when you're out and about. You can sometimes get a Lucky Saint pint as well. But like you said before, Ben, I think it does feel a lot better when you're able to have a pint of something in your hand rather than
it's an authentic pub experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's as a non-drinker who drinks like an addict. Like that's what I want. I want to be able to have something in my hand that is a beer. I want the pub experience. You know, I always preferred pints when I was going out, even when I was a big drinker. You know, I love fancy craft beers, but I can drink a can at home.
Yeah,
you know, I can't get it in pint form at home. So
I just want it in my face when I come into the place. You know, I want, and you know that Mash Gang will do some really cool sort of tap handles. I want to see anyone, like, if you're going to be on tap, get yourself a cool tap handle.
Yeah, it's gonna be a snake wrapped around a piece of wood, isn't it? Like, I'm just putting that prediction out there now.
I mean, look at, like, when you go out to the States and you go into the bars, like, look at all the amazing tap handles you've got. And you're one of the first US breweries that I was really obsessed with. And actually met this guy when we were at Hop City, which I fanboyed over him, was Dogfish Head. And like, his story is, you know, he was hand whittling these tap handles, you know, out of wood into like this dogfish shape for the bars it was going to. And he was like doing it by hand to begin with, because he wanted to get noticed. And like, I don't think the tap handle game is strong enough in the UK. I think it needs to be better. There's probably a reason for that. And, you know, I'm sure people will inform us if that's the case, but it needs to be better, in my opinion. I need better tap handles in my life.
I think it's a massive part of it, isn't it? Like, all of that. It's how going for a drink makes you feel. And I'm not talking about intoxication here, but it's like everything about it. It's like the
ritual.
Yeah, it is a ritual. And I think drinking is a ritual, which can be quite dangerous, but it can be wonderful as well. So when we've got more, I'm not going to say healthy options, but like more positive options in terms of alcohol, then like that ritual can be a wonderful thing. So I think it is something that I want to see is more.
Out of all the beers that you like to consume, Ben, which beer would you most like to see on tap?
Oh, that is a question. I think like a bang. There's two. You got to go down the banging lager route, and then you've got to go down the like smashable. Like, oh, this is delicious. Like, I'd like a We Can Be Friends beer on tap.
Oh yeah.
So if I could do my dream lineup, right, I would have Low Life or Stoop. I'd have any of the We Can Be Friends beers because I think they're bangers.
Have you had them Stoop Light yet?
Not yet, no.
So this is like if Stoop and Low Life and Cheap Lager had a baby together. There you go.
Okay. This isn't me. This isn't me calling him out at all. Alex said, "We'll send you some American imports for January." I was like, "All right, legend." So I'm not going to buy them yet because I've got about £2 left in my bank. Because all the fucking breweries release beers in January. So I've kind of waited, and I think next week I'm probably just going to order some. Because he sent me that like ages ago, and then like it's just busy, isn't it? And I don't I hate being like, hey, those beers. Like I'll just be like, yeah, if you want. Like if you remember, that's fine. I feel like Alex probably still is the sort of person that will try to do the work of like 50 people.
Oh yeah,
I reckon that must be so hard to stop. Like once you've been doing it for so long, and it's been like your entire life,
Yeah, that was that's been the difficult thing for me, I think. And thank God I had a kid to kind of take my mind off that, because going from that, like high, all that intensity down to, I'll just have one job now, and it's it comes with its challenges, of course. Is the massive change. I was like, so what am I gonna do all this time I've got now?
Yeah, I bet that is like, it's like the quiet after a massive fire, but a good fire. Like what happened was amazing. But so beers on tap, I think. So we've got the We Can Be Friends. We've got let's say Stoop Light.
Okay,
that's it's going to be a solid lager. Like I trust Jordan's lager enough to know that that's going to be a banger. I'd put Colt there. I'd put Colt over Chug for me because I think it's just more easy drinking. And I'm talking about for the wider world. Then Sober Brummy Stout, I think, would have to go in there because I think as just a base stout, it's just amazing.
The base stout for Lesser Evil, by the way, was so good. We considered actually just releasing it as just that.
Well, I mean, they should do a base stout. I think, like
special, really, really special.
Lesser Evil is awesome. But I've never been a big like stout guy. If you know what I mean, like the kind of the donut stouts and all of this. Like I've never, even when I was a full alc drinker, it's just not my jam.
I think the best stout that I've had recently, just pure sort of dry stout, was number 2. Two from 5 Points and
Wiper and True.
Yeah,
I say I should know this. It was in my fucking beer box.
Yeah,
I was trying to.
That was a really, really good stout.
Very good. Do you know who of Nirvana just put out a milk stout?
And they've also just announced a night
for a stout. Yeah, I'm waiting for that to arrive.
See that one, because I think they seem to really up their game recently.
You know what? Nirvana, I think I've said this to you, I think Nirvana are one of my breweries of 2024. Like purely because, and I don't mind admitting this, I used to find their stuff, like, I don't want to say middle of the road, but I could take it or leave it. I think it was really important, like Nirvana existing, it was so important because when I stopped drinking, it was them, Mash Gang, a few other breweries. There was nothing else.
It was really popular in like Indian restaurants, which was great. So you were getting in your restaurant, you could have a Nirvana, and I remember the first time I had Nirvana, and I was really impressed by it actually. I do think, they were maybe a bit middle of the road at one point, but now what I'm seeing is their stuff really jumping on and
Free beer's been incredible that they've released recently. Like they did the lemon lager, and then they did the wheat beer, and then they did just like a standard lager or a Hell's. And I thought in my head when I got the Hell's, like, okay, we're going to go back to like base level Nirvana beer now. It's going to be drinking a German Hell's. It was damn delicious.
Yeah, I really like that they do offer 0.0 and 0.5 as well, because I know some people don't want the 0.5. I personally, without going into banana related arguments, think that 0.5 is fine personally, but some people don't, and I think it's quite clever to be able to offer both.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll bite my tongue on the 0.5 argument because I feel like it's like I'm going to etch that onto my tomb. It's the same as a ripe banana. Like the amount of people are just like, actually, it's still got alcohol in it. It's like, oh my sweet God. I mean, you have to be right. Okay, be gentle with people because they don't know, because you didn't used to know. Like I didn't used to know that 0.5 was.
I mean, this has always been one of my a gripe to many regards is, okay, well, if I go down the orange juice aisle in a supermarket, why is all that not saying not suitable for young people, 0.5% alcohol, etc., etc.? Like, I just don't really. I guess it's probably because it's an impersonation of alcohol that you're doing, and maybe
it's like if you're brewing something, you're doing it to a desired strength. If you're brewing it to 0.5, so you're intentionally producing a little bit of alcohol. It's
great issues for sure, and the laws and regulations around it, the guidance aren't particularly great anywhere. I think there's still a lot of education.
Yeah, that's the word, isn't it? I think it is about education, and like you say, it's not in a patronizing way.
No,
like not to say, oh bless you, you don't know about ABV, like because I didn't before I stopped drinking out. Ironically, before I stopped drinking alcohol, I had no idea about what ABV kind of entailed. But more that people know.
The higher the better.
Yeah. Oh man, my favorite beer of all time was a Brewdog and Evil Twin 11% nitro stout, Imperial nitro stout.
Oh. Now, what's interesting, I think, Ben, is if you look at there's two ways of looking at this, but I think beers above 6 or 7% are ruinous for the alcoholic beer industry in some ways, because, well, on one hand, if you look at all the best rated beers on Untappd, and if you're a sad nerd like me, you'll spend time studying that because you'll want to see, okay, well, what's the best like non-alcoholic beer, well, etc. They're all, triple IPAs, imperial stouts, all that sort of thing, around the 10% mark. So people really, really rate them, or at least they think they do. I'm not completely convinced anyone really does enjoy drinking a 15% beer, but I didn't. But each to their own. But they get the best rating. But the thing is, if you're going to a bar and drinking a 15% beer, you're not having more than one of them, are you?
Well, you'd hope not.
No. Oh, I did once. I once went down to a Lervig night that was on at the North Tap Room in Leeds, and Magic Mike, who I believe is the owner of Lervig, was there, and I was introduced to him. And that's all I remember, because I had a lot of 6, 7, 8+% stouts that night. I didn't even school night. I remember were the next day. But yeah, some special stuff they were doing there. But yeah, that's the thing. If you do have like too many, like you do forget. Whereas if someone's going to drink, well, let's say if someone's going to drink 5% pints, the equivalent of that is probably like, 2.5, 10% pints or something like that. You're not going to have more than that. And I know that the bars charge more for that, but I just think sometimes, like, if you only make those beers, you're never going to sell the volume. And I'm not encouraging people to binge drink here, but I just think sometimes you're kind of doing yourself out of some of the volume a little bit on it as well.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have 5% beers or 4% beers, and also a really good selection of alcohol-free beers, people can zebra stripe their way all the way through, can't they?
That's it. Zebra striping is my favourite thing at the moment. Like, I think that's got to be, I think, the future of drinks.
You know what the cool kids are calling them, though, Ben, don't you?
No,
The extra cool kids like me.
go on.
So, once you've been using zebra striping for long enough, you kind of progress to calling it zipping.
Zipping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Combination of the two words. It's what all the cool kids are calling it.
Right. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
That's going to be I'm going to start like zipping doesn't really fit into a month, does it? I can't start a dry January thing. That's impossible.
I think zipping also sounds a bit like drug related.
It does. It does. Very much so. That makes it even cooler, though, right?
Well, yeah, of course. Drugs are cool.
So my thing with, we're talking about like the high ABV drinks kind of being not redundant, but like missing a trick a little bit. I am kind of thinking, or I've been thinking this for a while, with the growth of low ABV drinks, like I don't really see a place for a table beer anymore, like a 3%er. Because
Argument is
my thing is, right, if you're drinking a 3%er, everyone or most people that drink a 3% beer do it knowingly. They do it for a reason, and that is for 3% ABV. And my question is, now, what's the fucking point? If you can get a 0.5 that is better than a lot of these 3%.
I mean, historically, a lot of beers were actually around that level, like in the past. And I think it's an interesting one because I look at, how well Small Beer Co. have done in the last year, for example, and some of the stuff that they make. And I'm like, actually, like they're making good stuff. And I think you can get, there's probably some things you can do with a beer. And, I'm not a brewer. I'd have to ask you about it, but you can probably do a little bit more with a beer if you're able to, if you put more ABV into a beer, you can do a little bit more. The quality becomes a little bit easier to achieve.
Yeah.
However, like what you said, I do think, there's surely a point where the two become so close together that actually
just go for the 0.5.
Yeah.
If you're trying to drink mindfully and you're like, well, if you're driving or whatever and you're like, oh, I'll just have this 3% or 2.5%, just go all the way. If the flavor's the same, that's what I'm interested to see what will happen to, is for table beer.
I wonder if moderation in itself pushes people more towards that middle ground as well, though. So people think rather than drinking a load of 5% and a load of 0% the night, what if I just drink 3% across the night?
God, it's a minefield, isn't it?
But I remember when micro IPAs or whatever they were called when they first came out, and I remember Magic Rock did a really, really good one at about 2.5%, and I was like, all that flavor they managed to get into 2.5%, and I was really blown away by it at the time. And that was really before the low movement came along. And got to shout out the OG as well. The Colonel table beers were always unbelievable to me before table beers became trendy as such. So I think that, I mean, if you can, I think there's a craft in doing it. I can appreciate the craft in sort of making that, and maybe it's a nice mealtime beer for people who can. But yeah, I definitely accept your point. And I've always sort of said myself, playing devil's advocate to anyone who's saying, oh well, why don't we make like a 2.5% beer? I'm like, yeah, but where is that category? It's almost like it's going to get stuck between the others, and something eventually falls away.
Yeah, because like if my thing has always been, if you're drinking beer because you like beer, then the ABV doesn't matter to you. So like if someone wants to have a beer but they're driving, so they go for a 2.5%, it's like, let's give you, okay, have your 2.5%. Here's a 0.5% taste of them. Which one tastes nicer?
Yeah.
If the 2.5% tastes nicer, then by okay, you do you, hun. But if the 0.5% tastes better, then just for that little bit of ABV, you're drinking it because it's got the alcohol in, and because you feel
this is it,
you're having a beer when you have alcohol. And this, I think, is a stigma that we're breaking.
And this is, for me, all I want in anything, full out, non-out, whatever. I just want the best quality product I can have. That's what I want, something that tastes nice. And that's why I like to drink various different beers, and I would like to try the range of things, and the experience of trying different things is what I'm after. So, and I like to think the optimist in me would like to think in the next 12 to 24 months, we get to a place where the vast majority of people aren't actually even looking at, aren't particularly bothered where it says 0.5 or 5% on a beer. They're seeing a beer on a menu and thinking, that sounds delicious, I'm going to have it. For those that can drink, obviously, if you only want to drink 0.5% beers, you're not going to do that. But, going the other way, I would like to think that that's where things get to. And it just becomes, just a number. And when Mash Gang put that beer into Morrison's in Jan 23 or whatever it was, we specifically said to them, we want you to put this in the full ABV aisle because we don't see this as being, an alternative in terms of it's a lower ABV. This should be, here's a beer that you'll like the taste of. If you look, don't worry about the fact it's 0.5. And I would really like to see it get to that point. At one time, when I go to a bar now, and increasingly, I probably drink slightly less beer because I'm finding other things that I like. And if I see a bar that has the Pathfinder on, which is a sort of hemp-based spirit, I'm there. That's like my favorite thing now. On a Friday night, I used to have this vice, which was, I'm a bit sad really, but I'd sit down with a couple of beers that I'd get from a bottle shop and a Jägermeister and Red Bull was my thing. I mean, who drinking that on a Friday night at home? Me. But I just loved it. It was my favorite drink. And that was one of the things which I really sort of missed when I was putting these down. But Pathfinder and ginger ale, get a nice bit of lemon in there and thank me later. That's something special. That's my new favorite drink now. And that's what I find myself Friday night. I've got myself some fancy spherical ice makers.
Oh,
nice little whiskey tumbler. And that's what I have now on a Friday night.
That's it, man. Like, we talk about these rituals that we have. Like, it's just a little treat to ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole drinking experience, this is a nice thing for me that I'm going to do now. And I think that's the most important fundamental of a nice beverage.
Well, I mean, let me ask you a question as well, Ben. People's, not getting political, but it seems like in the next 12 months, people are going to feel the pinch on their pockets a little bit more. Do you therefore think that you will be doing more drinking from home in the next 12 months? Do you think people will drink from home more than 12 months? Or do you think that people will still be keen to sort of treat themselves and get out to the bars and enjoy themselves?
I think, like, from all research, like, since COVID, like, home drinkers, it's grown ridiculously, really. I don't see that changing because I think it's just so available and, like, almost to the point of it being problematic. If we're talking like full ABV, I think that, like, I think people are gonna, like, pub is always going to exist. I think because I think people want pubs to exist. It's just
the social pubs. Yeah.
Like, and I think after lockdown, it proved that we need that social engagement. But I do think that, again, without being political, like, the hospitality industry is on its knees and something's got to give. I don't know what that is. Like, I'm not ever going to claim that I know the answer to that.
I think there'll be winners and losers. I think people will always go to the bars. I think if you can make your proposition more compelling than others, then you'll win, and there'll be some consolidation. There'll be some, unfortunately, a chunk of the leisure and hospitality industry that will disappear. But there will be winners from it as well. But I think if you are, if you're a brewery, and you do have bricks and mortar sites as well, if you're not contemplating, your direct to consumer,
right,
at the moment, then you probably want to, because if people are gonna stop spending it in your bars, then they may well be spending it at home instead.
Yeah, I see the segue there. And that's a very valid point. Like, especially with, like, how many beers have come out in January? Like, I know it's all alcohol free, but how many beers have come out in a month? That it's like, I need to try this, I need to try this, I need to try this, I need to try this. Like, if other breweries can crack what Mash Gang cracked with, I mean, how many beers did you release over 2 years?
So
And you've got people that have tried every single one of those beers, and they're drinking them at home. So there's a massive market for it.
Well, like the sub box that you curate.
Yeah, and it's almost difficult to pick 8 different beers every month because there's so many that come out. I mean, looking at my page and Martin Dixon's page at Alcohol Free World, I mean, he's over 1,500 reviews now.
Yeah, he's special, isn't he? He's Martin. I love his reviews.
He's a fantastic human being. Very, very knowledgeable about his alcohol-free beer. Well, his beer. I'm not even going to say alcohol-free beer. He's knowledgeable about beer. I mean, he's one of the people that made me go, oh, this place exists. Like, this world of alcohol-free drinks exists.
If you're not following that page, what are you doing with your life? Got to get that followed.
Yeah, like, he is the oracle. He is, say, like, the OG of the alcohol-free beer world.
His reviews are so good that they will change my opinion of a beer. Yeah, they shouldn't, but they do. If I think, oh, I'm not sure about that, and then I'll go and try that beer again and see pulling out. Like, actually, yeah, I think he's right.
And also just an exceptional human.
Yeah,
like such a good guy. Yeah, I can't praise him enough. Like I'm lucky to be able to call him a friend.
Nice.
So briefly, without giving anything away, because obviously we can't, but where do you see the whole industry being in 12 months, do you think?
I think it will be stronger. I think for the low alcohol, yeah, I think that it's going to continue on its upwards trajectory. I'd like to think, I do think that Guinness Zero going on draft is going to create a bit of a stumbling block for some of the independent brands, but I would like to think that it opens up the opportunity for pubs to see that they do want to be getting more taps for AF on in general. And I would like to think by the end of the year we're seeing a lot more options on sort of the tap handles for alcohol free. I think there'll be new entrants. There'll be people who leave the market as well because it is incredibly difficult out there. It's costing a lot more money to pay people. It's not got any cheaper to pay for your energy as a business, etc. Costs only going one way and inflation's going up. So there will probably be some casualties. Hopefully nothing that I'm going to miss too much. I think there'll be new entrants as well. I mean, I don't know if you see this, Ben, but there are some new entrants to the market that I see on social media, and I'm not sure if actually it's just a bot and AI.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones I don't think are going to survive. Because I just don't think they're compelling enough. I think you need to have a compelling story and mantra
in an ever-growingly saturated market, which is
stand out. Exactly. Or you've got to have, someone with a lot of clout behind them, like Vero in the US with Mr. Holly.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous.
I mean, that's good. If you can get an A-lister celebrity onto, on your books, then that's probably a really good plan, actually, for selling your beer.
Yeah. If I ever decide to do one, that's what I'll do.
Just get a really famous friend to do it. But yeah, I do. I think, there'll be people like that and people who come in and, really ascend. But on the whole, a rising tide lifts all ships. So I think that's the key thing. If everyone keep building on it and making the good stuff for me to drink, then I'll be happy and I'll continue to sample everything that's sort of coming out. But yeah, if people could just chill a bit more for the rest of January, that would be great because
I'll just spread them out over the 12 months. That's all I want. And I mean, I understand it, but I hope that some of these beers become core range, like Juice for Scythe. Let's have that all year round, alcohol free.
Because
these amazing beers that have just been released during January, give it me all year round.
Yeah, and stuff like Juice for Scythe is was a fantastic beer from Brew York when they first released it. I was a big fan of the name, big fan of the beer, and yeah, I would hope that the AF version of it is is good.
Haven't drank it yet. I've got it in the fridge. So
first attempts, was it Loris? I think that was okay.
They did Loris and what about Cloudwater was fresh. They did Loris and was it Blue Jay?
Yeah, maybe
Brew York.
Blue Jay was Brew York. I just couldn't remember if that was a full ABV one. And
it's a lager. That was Blue Jay, wasn't it?
Yes, I think that might be.
It's an alcohol free, and it was fine.
Yeah. So hopefully, Juice. But if you're going to make an AF version of something as good as Juice Boss, you've got to make sure it's good. It's like, for example, Club Tropica NA. Not wanting to shit on them, but is a fucking terrible version of Club Tropica, which was loves of craft beer. Was really disappointing when it came out. And I think there's nothing worse that you can do than that. You might as well make a new brand to do it.
Yeah. On the other side of this, Old Peculiar. Is it Old Peculiar? I always get Old Peculiar and Proper Job mixed up. I'm talking about Proper Job. So I'm going to do that bit again and say, on the other hand, Proper Job is probably the best beer that you can get in supermarkets, in my opinion now.
Yeah, original Proper Job was the real start of my nerdery for craft beer as well. I remember vividly having that like a sampling event, but yeah, I haven't tried the AF version of it yet, but I will.
Mate, it's so good. It's so good. And I don't know if I'm just going to be jaded on it, but from the first time I drank it to the latest time I've drank it, I love it. I think it's incredible.
I want to see availability, in supermarkets, consumers. I don't want to see supermarkets be an exact mirror of what you can get, on a D2C website. I want it to be slightly more reduced range in a supermarket, but I want to be able to walk into a supermarket and pick up something a little more crafty in a supermarket if I want, which is going to taste good. Yeah, I'll always have Guinness Zero from a supermarket, but I don't really buy a great deal of pale ales from a supermarket at the moment. However, I will definitely try and pop Proper Job from there. And yeah, I want to see more availability. I don't want to see all the SKUs of someone in a supermarket, but if I can grab like one or two SKUs from a brewery in the supermarket, I quite like that. I know some people don't like the idea of that, but I think that's good overall.
I think especially in terms of alcohol-free, man, like the more availability, the more accessibility, the more you're promoting it, because although it's about people enjoying a drink, there is a sector of this industry where it is, I've said alcohol-free beer did save my life, like hands down. There are going to be some people who are in a similar boat. So actually, like, it's a really important liquid.
Yeah.
Stuff. Like, even if it's equal in 100, 1,000 people, it's still such a big thing.
So equally, you've got to look after your bottle shops as well, though. We've got to look to those beautiful independent businesses, and that's why I say I would never have pushed to have, with what Mashgang was when I was there, I would never have pushed for us to put everything into a supermarket. If we're going to do that, it would have been one or two SKUs, maybe a specially made supermarket SKU for that, to enable the bottle shops and all those other businesses that support to still have stuff that, you can only get in those locations. And I think that would be my preferred strategy for that. I know some supermarkets want to have it all. Some supermarkets only want to have a couple of SKUs. Some supermarkets want to have it just for them. But I do think it's important for the movement in general that it is available as widely as possible, and part of that is supermarkets.
It's a fine balance, isn't it, between the ready available and the bespoke?
Yeah,
it's very hard to crack all of it.
Yeah, no one's going to put a peanut butter jelly tuna fish sour in a supermarket. No one's going to take that. There'll always be a place for that elsewhere and for your more niche stuff. But a plain drinkable single hop or dual hop pale ale is specifically made for a supermarket, even if it's just got a different label or something and one slightly different ingredient, that's a good thing for a supermarket. I think you can go and get what you want there. If you go into, you go into a barbecue and you've not had a chance to go to, you've run out of your favorite beers at home, you just swing by and get that on your way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, beers that you otherwise wouldn't have got. I think that's good. And that availability and just for it to show people what's there. But I think it's important. I do think it's important for now for the alcohol-free section to be distinguishable from the alcohol section in the supermarket, even though when we put a beer into the supermarket, Mash Gang, we tried not to do that, but that was an experiment. And I think for now, if it's going to really grow, I do think it needs to be kept separate.
Yeah.
Next door to it.
Yes. Yeah. Like separate but not clinical, I think is my thing. It's like, I want to be able to find it if I'm looking for it. Like, I don't want to be sifting through. But also I don't want it to be like this big blue badge where it's like alcohol free. There you go. Here's for you.
It's like a complete other end of the, other end of a shop
Yeah, I've had to go into a bread section.
Yeah. They'd love to put a low alc in bread section. I have no idea why.
It's just weird. It's really weird. Like, I'll never understand these people. Well, Roger, thank you very much for this chat. It's been, to be honest, it's been overdue. Like we chat on a weekly basis.
We do.
And I'm glad that that's continued, post your stepping away from the gang. Because it is, it's the friendships that we build within this kind of industry that are really special, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're always part of the gang as well, really, aren't you? They won't get rid of me that easily.
But
thank you for having me, Ben. It's
been interesting. Like, I think I've learned so much from talking to you about how, like, the ins and outs of the business, and you've always got your finger on it in terms of, oh, watch out for this is being released soon. It's like, oh, really now? It's been a pleasure to converse with you.
Lovely. You too, mate.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs. You can find me on all the socials at Sober Boozers Club. I'm not going to tell you where to find Roger because he's got a young family and that'd be a bit weird, wouldn't it? But if you're interested in getting yourself some Mash Gang tins, I couldn't recommend it more. Head over to the website, get yourself some beers, have a good time. Until next time, my good friends.